Breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Helene is now a hurricane. This is going to cause a lot of damage to Florida and parts of North Carolina as well. I'll show you what to expect.
And breaking news in the mass shooting in Raleigh's Hedingham subdivision, a guilty plea from the father of the teen charged with the crime. We have live reaction just minutes away.
And homeowners on edge after a man holding a gun and ammunition was spotted in their neighborhood. Reaction to his sentence is just moments away.
Turn around, don't drown. It is a common theme you hear echoed by WRAL meteorologists whenever there is high water. Some folks ignore that warning, though, and they become trapped just like these drivers did in Holly Springs this morning. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. Some of you were likely rattled by the thunder and lightning in the early morning hours. We have live team coverage of the local damage. First up, meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner with what is now Hurricane Helene and the impact it could have here in our state.
And certainly we could end up with a lot of flooding in parts of North Carolina. I'll show you what we'll see right here coming up. But this is new as of 11 a.m. It just became a hurricane. It has winds at 80 miles per hour. It's moving northwest at 10 miles per hour. It's 85 miles northeast of Cozumel, Mexico. And right here is the Yucatan Peninsula. It will continue to move northward up into the Gulf of Mexico. We can follow the path of the storm. We'll pause it here tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. It is likely to be a major hurricane as it makes landfall right here in the Big Bend of Florida. I've got a map that shows what the storm surge will be coming up in just a little bit, but right here at its worst, it could be up to 15 feet, which is going to cause a lot of damage. The storm moves northward up through Georgia and then starts to make a left turn up toward the Mississippi Valley. But that doesn't mean that North Carolina is completely off the hook. As a matter of fact, it looks like things are going to get very serious for the mountains of North Carolina. Take a look here. This purple shaded area is a hurricane warning. The hurricane warning goes all the way up inland into Georgia after it makes landfall. And then the tropical storm watch goes all the way up into the mountains of North Carolina. Some of these taller ridges, the highest elevation 5,000-6,000 feet, could see gusts up to 70 miles per hour. And then some of the lower elevations, say Asheville and Bryson City, could see gusts up to 50 miles per hour. So that's going to cause a lot of damage, a lot of trees down, a lot of power outages. But it's the water that's going to cause the biggest problem. We take a look at Futurecast. And for us, we're going to start to see some of the rain by the afternoon tomorrow. And then from there on, it just continues to come in waves. It'll be moderate for Thursday night. And then we get a big rain band that comes in on Friday morning. You can see at 8 a.m. it starts to push in, and it's likely going to be with us until lunchtime or maybe even a little bit after that. And then that's when we're going to see the strongest winds. And we're going to take a look at what some of those winds are coming up. But as we get into the afternoon and evening Friday, we get back just to some isolated showers. We're going to see much heavier rainfall in the mountains, in some places 10 to 15 inches. And that is going to cause most likely deadly and dangerous destructive flooding. For our viewing area, we're talking about 1 to 3 inches. And just for reference, last night, we ended up with as much as 3 to 5 inches in some places. That flooding risk will go over. It's going to be excessive for the mountains, and it will be low for us. We'll talk a bit more about some of the rainfall totals and, of course, those winds coming up.
We are tracking Helene right here in the WRAL Live Center with the help of some live cams. As Elizabeth just mentioned, it's east of Cozumel, Mexico. And this is a shot of a beach there in Cozumel. Its camera's buffering right now, but I can tell you that the winds are blowing, the waves are kicking up as well. A little farther north, this is a live cam out of Cancun, and you can see the wind is still blowing the wind and the cloudy skies and the waves there. But of course, Florida is the one that's going to really get hit by this storm, and this is the southernmost part of Key West. You can see right now the waves are crashing over the walls, and these are just the initial bands of Helene. Of course, it continues to strengthen, and we'll continue to follow it here in the WRAL Live Center.
WRAL meteorologists are answering the questions many of you have asked about Helene. You can check out the extensive Q&A right now on WRAL.com to see how the storm will likely play out in our state.
Some students in Person County got an unexpected day off of school due to flooding there. WRAL's Sean Gallagher is live in Roxborough right now with a look at that damage. Sean.
Yeah, Jeff, the flooding here was so bad, it caused a sinkhole here right behind me. Take a look. It was compounded by heavy rains that caused a pipe under the road to collapse. Crews telling me it was around 5 a.m. when this part of Long Avenue gave way. This is what DOT told me about why the pipe collapsed under a tremendous amount of pressure.
There, and when the water went through, it sucked the dirt down, which created that hole. we kind of pulled that back just so it wouldn't collapse any further, just for a safety standpoint, until we can get out here and get started. And we'll put some safety netting up around it. That's what these guys are doing right now.
And Roxborough police tell me they responded to 2 flooding calls right here on Madison Boulevard, around the corner, really. Nobody was hurt, but it did strand 1 vehicle. And the Mexican restaurant here had its entire parking lot flooded as well. Now, back out here live, you can see just how big of an issue this is going to be. DOT tells me it's going to be at least 4 to 6 weeks until they fix this. So if you're driving anywhere in this area, Roxborough police tell me that it's best to go up north just about a block to Gordon Street, just to the north. You can use that for the time being because it's going to be a lengthy period of time before they have this fixed. Sean Gallagher, WRAL News in Person County.
Causing all kinds of problems there in Roxborough. In Durham, the storm also brought down a large tree. Crews spent hours trying to remove that tree that fell on Leesville Road, bringing down phone lines with it. The road was closed in both directions near Carpenter Pond Road. No one was injured. The expected impacts from tropical storm from what is now Hurricane Helene could affect popular weekend events locally. Dozens of high schools have moved their scheduled football games from Friday night to Thursday. In downtown Raleigh, festivals and workshops for the IBMA World of Bluegrass are set to take place. In 2022, festivities had to move inside the Raleigh Convention Center because of Hurricane Ian. In Benson, organizers of Benson Mule Days say the 4-day event will go on as planned as long as there are no severe storms. Mule Days had to operate on a revised schedule last year because of Tropical Storm Ophelia.
Breaking news this noon, a guilty plea today from the father of the Raleigh teen charged in the mass shooting in the Hedingham subdivision. Alan Thompson pleaded guilty to misdemeanor storing a firearm in a manner accessible to a minor. His son Austin is charged with killing 5 people nearly 2 years ago, including his own brother. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan was in the courtroom this morning and joins us with the emotional statements from the victims' families. Chelsea.
Yeah, so Jeff, this morning we got a clear picture as to why Alan Thompson was charged with that misdemeanor crime of not properly storing a firearm to where it was accessible to a minor. That minor being 15-year-old Austin Thompson. It was revealed in court today that Austin got a hold of his father's 9mm handgun that was sitting by the bedside nightstand, unlocked in a box with a full magazine inside. Now, 61-year-old Alan Thompson entered the Wake County courtroom surrounded by his attorneys around 9:30 this morning. He did weep off and on during this 30-minute guilty plea hearing when the names of the 5 victims were read and the 2 others were talked about that were injured, and how he learned his oldest son James was dead at the hands of his young son Austin, according to his attorneys. Now, prosecutors say Alan Thompson's 9mm was found when Austin Thompson was detained after that mass shooting in a shed near the Hedingham neighborhood. He had gone there and was in a shootout with Raleigh police. Now, Thompson's attorney spoke at length that there were no warning signs of any kind that his son Austin could commit such heinous crimes.
This is an extremely sad case. It is also terrifying to anyone who has children. Alan Thompson never in a million years anticipated that his own family member would behave in this way. He is heartbroken.
Now, that guilty plea that Alan accepted means that the judge handed down 1 year of unsupervised probation. Now, should he violate that, that would mean he could spend up to 45 days in the county jail. As for Austin Thompson, who is now being tried as an adult, his trial is set for next summer. Live in downtown Raleigh, Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News.
A Raleigh man caught walking through a neighborhood in body armor with multiple guns is free on bond. A Ring doorbell captured the moments Michael Chadwick here walked up to a home on Patrick Road in the Brentwood neighborhood. Witnesses say Chadwick had a pistol on his hip. He was pointing a rifle in all directions and looking through the scope. He is charged with something called going armed to the terror of the public. Neighbors say they don't feel comfortable with Chadwick in the area.
We're about to pack up and head out to an undisclosed location and get out of the neighborhood for a little while because I do not feel safe.
Chadwick is due in court in October.
3 people died and a child has life-threatening injuries after a crash on NC 86 in Orange County. This is a photo from the Orange County Sheriff's Office. They shared it online. The crash happened yesterday near Coleman Loop Road. Troopers say the driver, Francescina Whitted, crossed the center line and went off the road before hitting a tree. Whitted died along with 2 passengers, Aisha Edwards and Anthony Bowman. A child survived and was taken to Duke University Hospital with serious injuries.
Both presidential campaigns will swing through North Carolina today. Former President Donald Trump is expected to speak around 1 o'clock at a campaign event in the Charlotte area. Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff plans to attend an event in Wilmington to stump for his wife, Kamala Harris. WRAL will cover all the campaign visits to North Carolina now through Election Day.
The House is expected to vote today to pass a government funding extension. Once again, Speaker Mike Johnson must rely on a substantial number of votes from Democrats to get the bill over the finish line. Once the House passes the bill as expected, the Senate will take it up next. The bill will fund the government until December 20th, setting up a high-stakes fight over spending right before the Christmas holiday.
Next at noon, a person was killed during a bus hijacking at gunpoint in Los Angeles. How police chased down and stopped the bus and how the driver got away.
Also, a Kentucky sheriff is in court today charged with killing a judge in his own chambers. What the two did together just hours before the shooting.
Plus, a new report on air traffic control systems. At 12:30, how many the FAA says are in urgent need of repair.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
Happening now in the WRAL Live Center, Raleigh police just notifying us that officers make an arrest in a series of bank robberies that happened this past summer. Take a look at your screen. This is video from one of those scenes on Lassiter Mill Road. That's the Wells Fargo branch. Police arrested 24-year-old Marco Antonio Aguirre Cadillo. He's also accused of robbing the PNC Bank on Capitol Boulevard on September 6th of 2024. He has been charged with 2 counts of felony robbery with a dangerous weapon. We'll be following this case, of course, his first court appearance, and let you know with the update starting on the news at 4.
A person is dead and another is in custody after police say a man hijacked a bus at gunpoint in Los Angeles. This all began shortly before 1 o'clock this morning. Police say a gunman pulled a weapon on the driver, touching off a chase. Police followed that bus and eventually put out spike strips. Once the bus came to a stop, the driver climbed out the driver's side window. 1 passenger died of multiple gunshot wounds. A second passenger was not injured. No word on a motive. A Kentucky sheriff, the sheriff charged with killing a judge in his chambers, is scheduled to appear in court today about 100 miles from the crime scene. Investigators say Sheriff Sean Steins turned himself in last week after shooting District Judge Kevin Mullins. Authorities say the pair had lunch just hours before the shooting in Judge Mullins' chambers. The motive is unclear, but days before the shooting, Steins gave a deposition in a federal lawsuit involving a former deputy who reportedly coerced a woman to have sex with him in 2021.
Fewer low-income students applied for college financial aid after the botched rollout of an updated version of the free application for federal student aid, also called FAFSA. Students have to submit the form to access federal Pell Grants, student loans, and other kinds of financial aid. The rollout was plagued by delays, numerous technical glitches, and administrative mistakes. FAFSA submissions for the current school year are down 3% compared with the year before. 988 suicide and crisis hotline callers will soon be directed to help centers based on their physical location rather than their phone number's area code. It's a concern we first reported in March. Since 988 launched 2 years ago, it has received more than 10 million calls, texts, and chats, according to government data. Verizon and T-Mobile started rolling out geo-routing technology last week. AT&T is planning to begin the process in the coming months. The FCC is expected to vote on a rule requiring all wireless carriers to implement geo-routing for 988 calls. If you or someone you know is in crisis, dial 988 to reach the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You can also find county-by-county mental health support resources on WRAL.com/gethelp.
Nearly 200 chemicals connected to breast cancer are used to make food packaging and plastic tableware. Dozens of those carcinogens can migrate into the human body. A newly released study finds 40 of the recently detected chemicals in food packaging are already classified as hazardous by regulatory agencies around the world. The findings come as rates of early onset breast cancer are increasing in women under the age of 50. Today, the FAA is expected to present ideas on how to improve its post-market food analysis. A new study suggests that traveling may improve your health and slow down aging. Researchers in Australia found that leisure travel activities can improve mental health, help with chronic stress, and prevent the immune system from being overactivated. Positive travel experiences like meeting new people, exercising, relaxing, and getting better sleep can slow the process of aging.
Helene is now officially a hurricane. Just moments ago, Governor Cooper declared a state of emergency ahead of the storm's arrival because the mountains could see 10 to 15 inches of rain. That state of emergency declaration activates the National Guard and swift water rescue teams. This is early morning video from Cancun, where tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches are in effect. Not only there, but also for parts of Cuba and Mexico, as well as the Gulf Coast of Florida. Strong winds are forecast to hit the Florida Panhandle tomorrow morning. So we could see significant rain from that hurricane and storm system. And then this morning, we also saw more rain. Elizabeth, this has just been the wettest record year for
right
us.
now. Yeah, we're headed toward potentially the wettest year on record at RDU. And of course, we saw a lot of heavy rain last night. I'm going to show you some of those totals. I want to start with Dual Doppler 5000 radar because we have the chance for a few storms to pop up this afternoon, but we're not seeing anything happening right now. So that's definitely good news. We have a cold front that's out to the west and a boundary that's sort of draped across North Carolina right now. All that rain moved northward. A few cells are trying to pop up closer to the coast. This front is going to be key in why we see so much heavy rain in the mountains. Look at this line of thunderstorms that stretches all the way up from the northeast, all the way down to the Gulf Coast, and it's becoming fairly heavy as it's moving into the south, including the mountains of North Carolina. Let's talk about some of the rainfall that we saw around here overnight last night. It was almost 5 inches in the southern part of Wake County, and then right here along the Virginia line, we saw widespread heavy rain from 3 to 4 inches. And so we did have some flooding up in Roxborough. We also had some flooding down here in Holly Springs. We saw coverage of that in our newscast just a little while ago. That's where the heaviest rain was. And then widespread from at least from the Triangle area northward for an inch to an inch and a half of rain. Things have quieted down a little bit there in Roxborough, seeing a little bit of sunshine right now. Quiet conditions. Futurecast shows a few pop-up showers that could develop as we get through the afternoon and into the evening, but nothing like what we saw overnight last night. We take a look at our rainfall chances, 40% chance as we get into the late afternoon and evening, looking at about a 60 to 70% chance really for tomorrow. And of course, on Friday, we could see some of the heaviest rain. We take a look at what's happening here. This is a look at the storm, and already we're beginning to see some of the rain bands affecting the west coast of Florida, and the storm is way down the Yucatan Peninsula. This is going to be a very large storm in terms of the amount of area that it takes up. And then here's the front, and this storm will come here and move up to the coast of Florida and start to interact with all the moisture that's already in place along that front. And that's why the mountains are just not in a good place. So Category 1 storm that, of course, developed at 11 o'clock, likely to be Category 3 as it makes landfall here along the coast of Florida with up to 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. That's likely to happen tomorrow evening. Then it moves northward toward the North Carolina mountains and starts to take a left turn. But there's going to be so much moisture here, so much heavy rain that it's going to cause some real problems. We talked about the winds a little bit. There's tropical storm watch all the way into the mountains of North Carolina, the higher elevations at 70-mile-per-hour gusts, and the lower elevations like Asheville or Bryson City, even Boone, likely to have 50-mile-per-hour gusts. For us, those the wind gusts are likely to be, say, 28 to 32 miles per hour. That's not a lot for us. Maybe some isolated power outages, but of course, it's going to be so much more in the mountains. They're going to see a lot of widespread power outages. Let's watch the rain begin there. This afternoon and evening, look at how that rain is heavy at 5 o'clock and just continues to fall very heavily tonight and tomorrow, really before the storm even arrives. And it just continues to rain there in the mountains. Now, by tomorrow afternoon and evening, we start to see some of that rain lifting through. We start to see a big, heavy band of rain that arrives on Friday morning around 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning and lasts until around lunchtime or early afternoon. And that's when we'll see the heaviest amounts of rain across our area. We take a look at what's happening in terms of our flood flooding risk. Of course, our flooding risk is going to be low compared to the extreme flooding risk that they'll end up seeing in the mountains. So we may dry out a little bit late on Friday. Right now, Saturday looks mostly sunny with a high of 85 degrees. We're going to talk a little bit more about what Florida will see in terms of the heavy rain and the storm surge there coming up.
The November election is just weeks away, and some North Carolina Republican candidates are working to distance themselves from Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. Tonight at 5, WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie looks at how a scandal facing Robinson is affecting candidates' campaign tactics on both sides of the aisle.
And then at 5:30, with millions of products available on Amazon, it can be hard to know which products are safe. 5 on Your Side explains important changes to prevent faulty products from entering your home. Plus, still ahead this noon, U.S. dock workers are working to extend extended hours to unload ships ahead of a potential strike next week. The issues at the center of the contract dispute.
Also, a pediatrician discusses the benefits of yoga for children.
Happening now in the WRAL Live Center, growing concerns about all-out war in the Middle East. A lieutenant general with the Israeli Defense Force telling its soldiers to prepare for a possible entry to Lebanon, where they would, quote, go in and destroy the enemy, make a decisive destruction of Hezbollah's infrastructure. Israel has called up 2 reservist brigades as it continues to hit targets in Lebanon concerning link to Hezbollah. Of course, that Lebanese group has already been launching targets into Israel. This has been a huge topic of conversation at the current UN General Assembly. Look for new reporting on this story in our news starting at 4.
A major deadline is looming for dock workers across the East and Gulf coasts. 45,000 dock workers are threatening to strike if they don't get a new contract by next Tuesday. That would stall key goods from being delivered, cars, food, resulting in possibly empty produce sections in the grocery store or extreme price hikes. The union is demanding an 80% pay increase over the next 6 years, as well as more restrictive language on automation in the workplace. Coca-Cola is pulling the plug on its special soda. It's spiced soda. It wasn't there long, less than a year after unveiling the flavor as a permanent addition to its lineup. Spiced is a blend of Coke with raspberry and spiced flavors. Coke isn't saying why it's phasing out the product, but says it's always looking at what their consumers like and adjusting the range of products. Coke plans to introduce a new flavor in 2025.
Just don't mess with Coke Zero. It is fine the way it is. Issues with air traffic control continue to cause problems for travelers. This time, it's not a staffing concern, but an issue with outdated equipment. After the break, we look at the impact this has on your air travel. Plus, the father of the teen charged in Raleigh's Hedingham mass shooting faced a judge today. And the sentence he now faces after his emotional appearance. Here are the winning lottery numbers.
Now, breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Here's a live look at Bradenton Beach, Florida. That's located between St. Petersburg and Sarasota. Right now, things looking calm, but Hurricane Helene expected to become a Category 3 storm by the time it hits the Sunshine State tomorrow evening.
We could be seeing strong wind and rain from that storm here in North Carolina, and we have team coverage of Hurricane Helene and local storms happening. We begin with Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Right now, it has formed.
It has. It is now a Category 1 storm, likely to rapidly intensify as it moves through the very warm water here at the Gulf of Mexico. It's 85 miles northeast of Cozumel, so it's moving past the Yucatan Peninsula, and it will move out to over the open water of the Gulf of Mexico here coming up. Moving north at 10 miles per hour, winds at 80 miles per hour right now. Likely to be Cat 2 by later today, and then Category 3 by early tomorrow morning. Look at that, 8 a.m. already Category 3, and by 8 p.m. making landfall. Coming up, we're going to take a look at the map of where the highest storm surge is likely to be. It moves north, likely to have a lot of destruction here in Florida and probably the southwestern corner of Georgia as well. Of course, the mountains of North Carolina likely to get hit really hard by the system too, with really strong winds and a lot of heavy rain. That rain in the mountains of North Carolina could end up being about 10 to 15 inches. And for us, it could be 1 to 3 inches, lighter amounts in the east and heavier amounts in the west. We'll also have winds gusting up to 30, 35 miles per hour for a time period on Friday morning, and tornadoes are possible as well. So we're going to go over some of the risk maps. We'll go over the flooding risk and, of course, our severe storm risk for the day on Friday, coming up in just a few minutes.
Elizabeth, thanks. At the top of the hour, we showed you video of a few drivers who got stuck in flash flooding in Holly Springs. Well, that road is now back open. WRAL's Julian Grace is there live with the message from the police chief. Julian.
Renee, he has a big message, but first I want to tell you this. We have been driving around in the storm tracker for the past couple of hours here in Wake County, and we were alerted to check out New Hill Road. And this is where we came, and this is what we found out. Overnight, the Holly Springs Police Department, they were called out here 3 separate times. This after drivers ignored the road closure signs and got stuck in the flood waters. Holly Springs Police Chief Paul LaCour shared a vital warning for drivers who disregard the road closure signs.
So the message here is that turn around, don't drown. That we want you not to go through the floodwaters because of the damage that it can do, obviously, to your vehicle, but it also puts you and your passengers at risk.
I do want to correct that. That was Chief LaCour that you heard from there, the Holly Springs Police Chief. Now, you're looking live now at this road closure sign. It's on the side of the road right now, but we're told the police department expects to use these signs again as floodwaters could possibly creep up in this area. For now, reporting live in Holly Springs, Julian Grace, WRAL News.
The father of the accused teen gunman in the Hedingham mass shooting faced a judge today and learned his fate. The judge sentenced 61-year-old Alan Thompson to 1 year of unsupervised probation. Thompson pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge of storing a firearm in a manner accessible to a minor. His son, Austin Thompson, is charged with murdering 5 people on October 13th, 2022, including his brother. Prosecutors say a handgun found with Austin belonged to Alan Thompson. And Alan told police the gun found with Austin was kept in his nightstand and it was not locked. Alan Thompson has no criminal record. If he violates probation, he will spend 45 days in jail. Austin Thompson will be tried as an adult in this case next summer.
Nearly 40% of FAA air traffic control systems are in urgent need of repair. That's according to a new government watchdog report. Kelly Saberi shares additional findings outlined by an oversight committee.
Nearly 80% of U.S. air traffic control systems are considered, quote, unsustainable or potentially unsustainable, according to a new report from the Government Accountability Office. The federal watchdog warns there could be safety risks in U.S. airspace if the Federal Aviation Administration continues to rely on these systems.
Right now, 90% of our budget for facilities goes on sustainment rather than new systems.
FAA Administrator Michael Whitaker testifying on Capitol Hill that the agency's facilities have been underinvested over the years. Some Republican lawmakers are pointing the finger at the Department of Transportation, accusing it of putting politics over safety.
This administration and that agency are focused on social agendas.
Meanwhile, Whitaker says the FAA is also working to improve its process for identifying aviation risks after a series of safety issues on board Boeing planes.
Should the American public have confidence that it is safe to fly on Boeing airplanes?
They should. We have inspectors that are on the floor every day overseeing the process, talking with employees.
He adds while progress has been made, the plane maker has to make significant changes.
There must be a profound shift in the company's safety culture to holistically address its quality assurance and production challenges.
That was Kelly Saberi reporting. The report comes just days after the FAA announced the largest number of air traffic control hires in nearly a decade. The agency hired more than 1,800 workers to reverse staffing declines.
Our teacher of the week just started his teaching career at the school where he was once a student. his approach as he helps to guide the next generation.
Plus, enrolling in a health plan is like alphabet soup. The difference between PPO and HMO, FSA and HSA, what you need to know to choose the right coverage for you. Our team is working to bring you exclusive stories for coverage you'll find only on WRAL. Visit WRAL.com and search only.
This week's Teacher of the Week is relatively new to the profession, but he brings an age-old commitment to education.
WRAL's Ken Smith is in Johnston County to meet a teacher who is very popular with his students.
Mr. Muller.
Hello.
Congratulations. You're WRAL's Teacher of the Week.
Oh, thank you.
How about that? It's safe to say when Addison Muller enters his classroom at Corinth Holders High School with students looking to him for guidance, he's in his happy place.
It just feels good to know that they're learning something and that they're getting something out of my class. And mostly it just happens with the big picture of my lessons. You know, what is the big picture we're looking for? And if they get it, we're great. And it's just a good feeling. 1206 is when he accepts the title of Genghis Khan or Universal Ruler.
A history teacher only in his second year, Mr. Muller knows a thing or two about Corinth Holders High. He was a student here in the 9th and 10th grades. He's known for being relatable and engaging with his students.
You know, on my drive to work, I'm thinking, what are we doing today? How can I help the kids? And sometimes I'll think about specific kids and what they need. So it's the most important thing to me right now.
Mr. Muller says even when he was the same age as his current students, he had an inkling that one day he would be called to teach.
I would always help my friends with like schoolwork and stuff, and I always found it really enjoyable to help them. And I always kind of thought to myself, I don't want to work like an office job or something like that. I like talking, and I like helping people. So I thought, well, talking, helping people, teaching.
Ken Smith, WRAL News.
What better way to help people than be a teacher? If you'd like to nominate a teacher, go to WRAL.com and enter Teacher of the Week in the search box.
It is that time of year once again, and after the break, we'll tell you how to choose your family's health care coverage, what to look for when you have to choose the right plan.
And new data shows yoga has a number of health benefits for kids. Coming up, how it not only improves their physical health, but their emotional well-being too. You're looking live at Fayetteville Street in downtown Raleigh right now. We're seeing a little sunshine there on the pavement. Nice to be drying out after this morning's rain. You're watching WRAL News, available on Hulu and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device.
In the coming weeks, nearly 165 million people will begin enrolling in their employment-sponsored health insurance plans. One health policy research organization says more than 60% of people under the age of 65 last year got their coverage through their jobs. Emily Schmidt explains how to find your best health insurance fit.
No one size fits all, and the same goes for employer-provided health insurance. That makes open enrolling an especially personal challenge.
Often you're being asked, when you have a choice of plans, you're being asked to make a trade-off between premiums and cost sharing.
Of course, we can't predict what's going to happen in terms of our health, but we can kind of think about, how do we expect to use our coverage in the year ahead and kind of choose according to what you think your expenses will be.
There's the alphabet soup of options, HMO versus PPO.
You tend to have more choice of provider in a PPO. That's the upside. The downside is if you have to go out of network, you'll probably end up paying more.
And FSA, which is often use it or lose it savings, versus the HSA, which requires a high deductible plan that potentially requires more spending up front. Then consider healthcare you used this year with care that might be brand new.
The typical worker spends something like 15 minutes a year picking their health plan. The best advice I could give is to spend more time than that to make sure you understand how the plan works, what it covers, what it doesn't.
Spend a little bit of time in figuring out how you would navigate your coverage when you need it, because often when you need it is not the best time to try to figure it out.
It's the health insurance twist on an apple a day keeping the doctor away. Work to pick the right plan now, so the right plan is in place to work for you.
That was Emily Schmidt reporting. If you don't have health insurance through your work or other sources like Medicare or Medicaid, you may be able to get coverage through the U.S. Health Insurance Marketplace. Open enrollment for 2025 begins November 1st and runs through January 15th.
Yoga is good for your mind and your body. Now, pediatricians are highlighting the benefits it can offer children. We're talking children ages 6 and up should get at least an hour of physical activity a day. Yoga can be a great way for them to reach that goal. Deep breathing can also help kids manage difficult emotions. If you're having a difficult time getting your child to try something new, it's important to lead by example.
We are our best example for our children. So when we want our kids to participate in things, we want them to try new things. A lot of times it helps if we do it with them.
Okay, let's all do the child's pose. Yeah, that feels good. Whether it's yoga or riding a bike, pediatricians say it's crucial to find an activity that your child will enjoy.
If you're going to get that hour of physical activity today, choose wisely. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center right now. Definitely do it before Helene gets here.
Absolutely. Today is going to be fine. I mean, this afternoon, there might be a little pop-up shower or thunderstorm, but most of the rain we saw overnight last night, early this morning, that's over. And we should be pretty quiet for the rest of the day. Of course, here's Helene that became a hurricane just at 11 o'clock. And look at how far the rain bands spread all the way up here into Georgia already. And the center of circulation is way down here in the Gulf of Mexico, down here along the Yucatan Peninsula. So this storm is going to be huge in terms of the area that it covers. We're also watching this front. This front is going to start to bring some rain to the mountains tonight and continue that rain all day Thursday and most of the day on Friday. And that's where the mountains are going to get hit so hard. The storm is going to develop very quickly as it moves through this very warm ocean water. The warm surface temperatures of the ocean are where these storms get their fuel from. So as it moves northward across this warm water, it is going to rapidly intensify into a Category 3 storm before it makes landfall. It's likely to make landfall potentially tomorrow evening. This is 8 o'clock timestamp right there, most likely here in the Big Bend area of Florida, and then move up through parts of Georgia and Tennessee and Kentucky. And while the center of circulation won't make its way into North Carolina, most likely, we're going to see a lot of rain and some really strong winds, especially in the mountains of North Carolina. Storm surge is going to be a big thing for the coast of Florida. That purple area goes up so high we don't even have it on our legend right there. This is going to be 10 to 15 foot storm surge there. And this is a very low lying area, of course, like the coast of North Carolina. So that's going to be devastating. Very heavy rain here. You can see the yellow shaded area. That's going to be 10 plus inches, and that spreads all the way up into the mountains of North Carolina. It looks like it's going to stay west of us. So looking at 1 to 3 inches for our area. And as comparison, yesterday we saw as much as 3 to 5 inches of rain. That was overnight where we saw some flooding. So it looks like less rain than we saw overnight last night. But the mountains is a different story. Anywhere from 5 to 15 inches of rain, especially central and southern mountains. Boone likely to be more on the 5 to 8 inch rainfall total. For today, even, we're going to see that extreme risk. That continues to tomorrow, again, for the central and southern mountains, that extreme risk for flooding. And then that high risk continues in the mountains. Friday, we are under a medium risk in our western counties and a low risk for the rest of the viewing area. Take a look at Futurecast. The rain begins this afternoon and evening into the mountains and just continues. Like somebody turned a fire hose on the mountains. It just continues. We don't really start to see much rain from the system until mid to late day tomorrow. We'll start to see some isolated showers, and then the rain picks up. We see a big rain band that comes in on Friday morning and lasts into the early part of the afternoon. That's when we'll see the strongest winds, gusting 25 to 30 miles per hour. We'll see the heaviest rain and the best chance for tornadoes. By 5 o'clock on Friday, we're seeing some sunshine. Maybe a couple of isolated showers continue to pop up, but by that point, the worst of it will be over for us. Tomorrow, our southern counties are in a level 1 risk for some isolated tornadoes. That's going to be really for the overnight Thursday night, and then a level 1 risk for Friday because of, again, that potential for some isolated tornadoes. Bluegrass Festival, rain and wind to start the day on Friday, but we'll see gradually improving conditions during the afternoon and mostly sunny on Saturday. And of course, Benson Mule Day, same thing as we get into the festival. It looks like late Thursday and Friday are going to be the worst of it. Saturday and Sunday not looking too bad. Sunday, we may have some afternoon and evening storms.
Thanks, Elizabeth. The newly crowned winner of America's Got Talent has captured the hearts of fans and judges. What motivated him to audition for the show that led to this $1 million winning moment?
The winning Mega Millions numbers are 1, 6, 10, 23, 27. The Mega Ball is 18. The Mega Plier is 5.
We wrap things up with a look at a few of the headlines we're following for you today.
A judge sentenced the father of the Hedingham teenager charged in the 2022 mass shooting to 1 year of unsupervised probation. Alan Thompson pleaded guilty to misdemeanor of storing a firearm in a manner accessible to a minor. If he violates probation, he will spend 45 days in jail. His son, Austin Thompson, is charged with killing 5 people, including his brother, in the October 13th mass shooting.
More storms in our forecast for today, tomorrow, and Friday have caused us to issue a WRAL weather alert day. It could produce heavy rain and result in flooding in our area. Officials are reminding people, turn around, don't drown. That means do not drive through flooded roads like the one you see here. New Hill Road in Holly Springs is back open after it flooded. Police were called out 3 times overnight after drivers ignored the closure sign.
A Raleigh man caught walking through a neighborhood in body armor with multiple guns is free on bond. A Ring doorbell captured the moments Michael Chadwick walked up to a home on Patrick Road in the Brentwood neighborhood. Witnesses say Chadwick had a pistol on his hip and that he was pointing a rifle in all directions and looking down the scope. He's charged with armed to terror of the public and is due in court in October.
Winner of America's Got Talent has a story that's captivated fans as much as his singing ability, and now a longtime school janitor is the show's newest $1 million winner. Richard Goodall has been entertaining students with his singing for 23 years. His girlfriend encouraged him to take his first plane ride to California to audition for AGT, and he's coming home a champion.
Are you looking for an absolute hunk of a lap cat? If the answer is yes, you'll love our pet of the day from Cat Angels NC. Tim here is a handsome 4-year-old male tuxedo kitty who is an absolute snuggle bug once he gets to know you. He does get along well with other cats. And if you'd like to bring this handsome boy home to snuggle on the couch with you, just fill out an application on the Cat Angels website.
Well, more rain in our forecast as we track another chance for evening storms. Monitor Hurricane Helene in the Caribbean with us today at 4 with team coverage on the flooding risk.
Tomorrow and Friday are now WRAL weather alert days, so stay tuned with WRAL. Have a great day, and we'll see you at 4.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.